Hey, it's Shapes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 9th of February to the 15th of February. I'm a little ticked off at the start of this because usually I make the playlist and I can read off what the order of the playlist is. But for some reason I can't make playlists at the moment. I don't know why. It's not working on my phone either. I don't get it. So I'm just going to be doing it off a notepad, I guess. That's annoying. Hopefully I can actually make... If the playlist is not in the description this time, that's probably why. I don't know what to do, what to fix it or anything. Guess I just, I feel like I figure it's just like one of YouTube's weird bug things. I don't know. But I'm going to start with a video that unfortunately I thought was not good. I'm not like... I didn't hate this video in the way. It's a very soft not good. All right. But it's from this channel that I was recommended to, and this is like their first anime video that I can see on their channel. They usually do Metal Gear Solid videos. They seem to be doing really well with those, as well as other video game related things. And they do mention in the video, so the video is called The One Series to Get You Into Anime from Futurasound Productions. And they do say right at the gate that they're kind of a non-anime fan, or as someone who's not into this stuff the same way as some other people might be. And that's fine and good, and that's why I'm not going to totally roast you for the one time you call it Studio Gainax. It's Gainax. It's Studio Gainax. But that was I figured, okay, there's going to be some of that. That's fine. I shouldn't have the highest expectations for this sort of video. And for the most part, I think it's not irritable in the way that some of these other videos that I've covered can be. With it, it's very obnoxious or boring presentation. I think the clip selection was done really well here, tastefully. And I think the general delivery seems very approachable, and it didn't seem all that bad. It was just like the thing about it that kind of stuck with me, and I had to rewatch it and take notes. But I came away at the end of finishing the video, and I was like, yeah, I didn't like that. I wasn't as into that, I guess. And then I wanted to rewatch it to really try to explain it, and I took notes and stuff. Because it's not like I'm going to get him or something like that, It's not one of those. But I do... So start off, again, the presentation I think is really good. And then I like the AMV type of portion at the very beginning of it. It's very tasteful and kind of engaging. And definitely taking advantage of kind of the one thing with Ava is like, it's such a fun show to edit for and make content about. And that's why there's so many... I think that's why there's so many Ava videos. Because it's just one of those series that's like very endlessly talkable, I guess. But unfortunately, just so many of them come off very shallow because they kind of don't know what to talk about. They don't give a lot of specifics. And it feels like he was talking in this video. He talks as if you've kind of seen it already. It felt like to me. I get that he was probably just trying to avoid spoilers. And that's fine. I think you can talk about Ava concretely while avoiding spoilers. I think if you gave very specific examples for everything you're talking about in the show, besides just showing the clips, besides giving off the impression, I don't know. I guess I was sort of looking for more as someone who has seen Ava, talked about Ava, has seen a lot of other people talking about Ava. I guess I'm just kind of wanting more out of this subject if you're going to tackle it. I think my biggest thing with it, I ultimately kind of stuck away with it, but I do want to talk more about the meat of the video itself. But the one thing for me, it's like, clearly this is just a kind of a clickable title. It doesn't really have anything to do with the subject of the video, which is really talking more generally about Ava, kind of its singular importance out of kind of plucking it out of this giant medium in terms of getting, I guess the one to get you into it. But I don't think it was actually articulated in the video itself as like, if you're not an anime fan, check this out. because there is a lot of anime that like that I think are very approachable, probably even more approachable than Evangelion. I think Evangelion's kind of intimidating at some points. If people have kind of heard of it and everything, it has this infamy to it. I mean, there's other things you can recommend to people in that way. And I'm not saying it's not a bad thing to check out. It is a great representative sample in the way that it references a lot of previous works and is embodying a lot of stuff. But it's like, it's not enough to just rattle off and be like Gundam, Devilman, Yamato, and then just showing clips of Gunbuster and calling that a masterpiece. But you don't really, I don't think you gave it quite enough to be like, this is an influence because of this. As someone who made a video about influences on a particular show, you really need to say the thing that it's influenced, like the depressed children, or I don't know. It's like something very specific detail. Even just one would have been plenty. You don't even have to substantiate it all that much. It's just, give me one example. Don't just say that it is inspired by this and this thing. You know what I mean? And I can say this as someone who didn't. I'm not trying to talk about Evangelion's influences as much, but I am kind of showing the ones, maybe even ones that you haven't heard of. You know, and you know, that's just as someone who's like looked really deep into this, and I don't know. I feel like if people probably know, but I don't know. It just me it left a lot to be desired, and I get that I shouldn't have as high of an expectation when like they're not as much of an anime fan. They probably don't know what Zambot 3 is. Okay, Shapes. It's like, okay, fine, I get it. But you know what I mean? I don't know. I guess you don't know what I mean. I don't know. Let me just read my notes a little bit. There was one point at the very beginning that actually kind of was interesting and something that not a lot of people have said about Eva. He evokes the fact that it's a lot like, it is really kind of one of its kind in terms of a TV broadcast, because it felt a lot more like an OVA than a TV show, he says. And he explains kind of what an OVA is like, and it can go push the envelope because it's not airing on any televisions or movie screens, so it can kind of push the envelope of some pretentious, showing some angel's eggs, some Urasuki Doji, and yada yada. And I think that articulation was good, but I don't think you made that full connection. It's like, it reminds me, it's evocative of the use OVAs, like and explains OVAs, but then doesn't finish that connection with, okay, what exactly does Evangelion do that other TV broadcasts have not done before 1995? You know, because I can totally understand how Evangelion really shook the landscape for original TV anime. I made that a lot more replicable and potentially profitable, and they were willing to experiment on these projects. And so you have a lot of TV series from the late 90s that don't invoke Eva specifically, but chart the same path where they were kind of pushing the boundaries of what you would expect television anime to do. The most recent example I can think of that I've finished watching was Now and Then Here and There. That's a TV anime that like kind of has that same thing where it's like, whoa, this aired on television kind of deal. It has that kind of boundary pushing type of content with the war and the level of brutality in it, and it feels a lot like Lord of the Flies or something like that. It has a lot of brutality. I don't want to, and I get like in this particular part, I'm not citing so many examples. I'm kind of going off the top of my head, but like if I was making a formal response to this or something, I would probably give an example. But you know what I mean? I think this falls into a trap that I think a lot of anime YouTubers, and I'm not saying you're an anime YouTuber, but just like YouTubers, right? But then a lot of people who do anime, which is a lot of stuff that I watch, they do this thing where he lists off, not like listing it specifically, but like you mentioned Freudism, Stanley Kubrick, David Lynch, Lovecraftian, and then like a minute later, Tarkovsky. You list all these like evocative, very specific filmmakers or subjects, like Freudian, whatever, to kind of evoke. It's like Freudian. It does this without like backing any of it up. It's like, okay, what is it about this that reminds you of David Lynch? and or it's like fans remind of David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Now I haven't seen Twin Peaks, and I've obviously heard plenty good about it. And I've heard good about David Lynch. I've only seen Eraserhead from his works, but it's like go the basic. I think the best you do is with mentioning the way you mentioned Stanley Kubrick the second time, showing up in 2001: A Space Odyssey, in the one sequence there where it's very surreal and kind of like abstract. It's like, okay, there's something, you know what I mean? But like, you can't really just like list these things off and expect us to, I get it, at least to me. Maybe that's just, again, my standards a little higher. I don't know. I did like that you were different in the way you praised 3.0, and it's like, a lot of fans don't really like it, but I thought it was interesting for shaking the expectations, and it's the best looking. It's like the best looking anime movie he had seen at that point, and that's fine. I would have liked a little more of a defense, I guess. Not like I'm against a 3.0 or something like that, but it's just, I don't know. I guess it was nice that you vocalized that contrast. It's like some people don't like it, but I thought that was cool. But it was just a lot of this video where it's just on the cusp of being like, oh, that's a good video, but it just doesn't push it enough for me. I don't know. And there's just something about your presentation and the way you're speaking, and also just you're seeing your channel, having not watched any of the videos and how long they are and the subjects you're talking about. I've not played any Metal Gear Solid, but I've absorbed enough through osmosis to know that that's a series that really deserves a lot of attention and care in citing specific things. So I don't know. There was something about your channel and the way you're presenting this video that made me like, I think you could do better than this. There are some channels where they're like kind of small. You can tell they're just starting, and they're just finding their way through. They're first making it, haven't been making videos very long or something, and you can temper your expectations to that level. But there was something about this channel. I was like, I feel like he's done better than this. I feel in other subjects that's not Evangelion. Like if he talks about Metal Gear, I bet he's excellent at it. I bet he's citing a bunch of stuff, and I trust that. Especially because I imagine the Metal Gear, he wouldn't get to this level of success with the Metal Gear fans, being as I imagine having fairly high standards. I don't know. That's just me. This is a purely conjecture, I guess, kind of off the top of my head. And the last thing was, he does the thing that a lot of Evangelion videos do. You quote Anno, you cite the man, and I did like that the quotes didn't seem all that specific to, they weren't like, the religious symbolism don't mean anything, or, something about him being an otaku or not an otaku. And I feel like it's very, very easy to kind of get lost in the weeds with Anno's quotes. But I think you brought up just enough things to be like, oh yeah, this is how it connects to Japan's lost generation, et cetera, like that. I think that was good though. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So I mean, I could just put it with decent with an asterisk, but like, it's just how I feel. It's a completely subjective thing. But you guys check it out. It's fine. I'm taking a request video from Nicolas Senshi. Wanted me to talk about a Gigguk video from a few years ago called The Greatest Thing Anime Has Done. And Gigguk called this a series Anime Monologues. And I'm not actually sure how many other ones he made. And I know he doesn't make them too often anymore. Because they're very generalized, and I feel like watching it, I was picturing myself as like, if I would make something kind of like this, because I've certainly had these thoughts and these kind of like these ramblings of sorts. I'm like, maybe turn that into a video kind of thing. But going through with it is interesting. Interesting to see. But it's a short 10-minute video, less than 10 minutes, talking about kind of just how anime makes him feel, I guess. With and why he watches it as much as he does, and really centers on it specifically. His love for anime, basically. And it was spurred on by him watching A Silent Voice, and how the range of subjects that it covers. That it's very tactful in a way, and I think it was really cool. I do enjoy it, and I also really liked the collage of clips that I would imagine it was mostly Alan Bakashift was taking from. It was a wide variety of older stuff and newer stuff, things that were kind of relevant to what Gigguk was talking about. Obviously, that's what he did his job, but it didn't feel like, oh, they're just. It wasn't transparent, like, oh, you're taking from the same few anime basically, and or like the same episode from the same anime or something. It felt a lot broader in that way, and I think that was well hidden in editing this. But otherwise, there's not too much visual stuff going on. It really is just kind of a rant on Gigguk's end, and yeah, it is kind of like him doing his own thing, and like it's hard to comment on, actually. I have to admit, it is. I do feel that way with how anime like makes you feel, I guess. It is kind of what it is, I guess. I don't know. I'm so sorry with these request videos. I've just drawn blanks so often. It's not as much I can like really pick into. Yeah, I don't know. I will say, editing wise, he does. At least Alan, does a couple of manga stuff that's really nice looking, but really relegates it to just silent voice. And I will also say that the video dates itself a little bit with choosing like erased in a particular moment. Not like it's like a bad thing, right? But it's just noticeable in that way. Actually, it doesn't date it that bad because erased I think was 2016. And this came out like April 2017. So I guess it's not the worst thing. I don't know. But I like the variety of clips here. Oh, yeah. Him talking about Naruto was really cool. And the kind of the broadness of variety he has. I'm just kind of skimming through with some of the clips he was showing. And it really is kind of evoking the very je ne sais quoi, like cathartic kind of feeling that anime gives people. And I think it's great that he vocalizes that in a way that's not aimless necessarily. It doesn't feel like it's like, yeah, okay, who cares, dude? You know what I mean? It's centered on him and how it affects him personally without going too TMI, kind of like uber personal or something, or him going on a tangent of like when he was growing up or something. No, that would have been bad. I think it would have been interesting. But he makes it in such a way that's very general. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It's just gone. It was because like something's up with my player or something. Anyway, I'm just trying to skim it through at this point. But yeah, it is cool, and I appreciated that he went for that. But like I get why he probably doesn't make them as often, because that's it. It's kind of very all encompassing in a way. He doesn't bring in a lot of specific detail nuance. He's not tackling a particular point. He's going for more of a feel type of thing. So that's something you can really only do once or a couple, maybe like a couple times, about maybe like where you are in your current state of mind or something. But I feel that. I really enjoyed that. And again, sorry I don't have too much specifics to say beyond that, I guess. But I think it speaks for a lot of people, so I think it ages really, really well. Yeah, it's good. Thank you for requesting that. Okay, now for the videos that I thought were decent. Pretty good. And the first one is from the Digi channel. It was soon to be known Yig Studio. Beatrice coming out with, you have 3 weeks. Oops. All of my channel's content before it all goes private. So this is the PSA that I'm helping to spread. Beatrice, formerly known as Digi, formerly known as other Digibro. Beatrice is her stage name, at least with like your screen persona that she basically used to be for just her music stuff. Beatrice the Golden Witch, and now she's kind of adopting it as her entire online persona, which is cool. So that's really exciting, and kind of it's not as exciting. I don't know how to that part is exciting, And then this is, this is unfortunate, I suppose. But it makes complete sense. She really explains very well, very succinctly, her situation. And the one line I want to bring up before I move on, not move on, but before I continue, she says, "I've no more an idea of what I'm doing than anyone else does." And I remember listening to that and was like, I really appreciate that, because it was, as someone who follows her content and has been for a while, there was that chunk of time where like right after she transitioned, she would do these like very long content updates sort of thing, and describing what she wanted to do, and then September or somewhere around that time it just really blacked out and we didn't know what was going on, and then a lot of stuff happened in that way. And then she just kind of drops void gazers on us and like and just very sudden, and there wasn't as much clarity with what's going on with her. I will say this was super different from what she would normally do. Usually she just kind of drops these projects on us, sort of deal. Or if she's filming herself, she's doing it off script, and she's been able to go off script flawlessly for years. But this is the first time that I can remember that she is reading off a script, filming herself, and you can see it. And it's so, and that's very different. And I think you can tell that it's like, oh, she's really serious about this. She wants to be very articulate with what she's saying, and clear. And I think it was a very, very clear message and very well articulated that, yeah, she's going to try to distance herself from that particular moniker, Digi, so that she's able to work on these original projects, her music, her light novel, this, like, I guess anime thing that she has somebody storyboarding and working on right now. Original content, which is awesome. And I think it's a path a lot of people are looking to go in because they see it as very fulfilling, and it is fulfilling. I'd say publish. I don't know if you've looked into it, but like publish Kusomega, go for it. I say that'd be really interesting. I just saw last week, 14 Spoons published a light novel that was the longest title, Guinness World Record, whatever, and that was a published title. So when I saw that 14 Spoons did that, I was like, why hasn't Beatrice done that? I don't know if she looked into it or not, but I think that's really exciting and interesting. I like that she's not abandoning anime content entirely, but she does want to distance herself from being considered an anime YouTuber. And understandable. I get that she, very passionate about her music, and I like that she brought people in to really help her with that specifically. But she's being very honest here, very candid, and doing this very drastic action of privating all the videos on her main channel, the Digi channel, and a Digi Collective, or Digi After Dark, as it's currently called. Yeah, and I'm going to be saving a couple videos that I don't think a lot of people are going to save. I trust that Asterix War Sex is going to be now uploaded by somebody else. Or I already found somebody in a Discord server I'm in, linked a channel that they found already of people already uploading. And there's probably a couple of channels like that, who knows, that are uploading a bunch of the videos already. But at least in the playlist of every video featuring Digi, there's 4,000 videos. Some of those are on other channels like Procrastinators, and other such channels, Corrupting Your Kids, etc. But yeah, so that's something that's happening. Holy crap. But I think I'm just happy that she's not falling out of it completely. Completely falling off the face of the map. A lot of people do. And that's kind of the one thing with content creators that I'm starting to notice with the internet and stuff. Like, people are like, wow, this is a great new source of entertainment that a lot of people are they've completely replaced to regular media, like, books, movies, whatever. But those people that are constantly creating, it's completely possible. It's happened to several of them where they just stop uploading one day, or they just haven't uploaded in a while, and then they never upload again. They're just gone, and sometimes they disappear from the internet completely, or they take hiatuses. And the hiatuses are fine, right? But it's like you never know how long they're gonna come, if they're ever gonna come back. And so a lot of people get that like, oh my god, you know what I mean. So I do like that Beatrice is really not necessarily leaving the internet completely, because it is something she loves to do. I'm appreciative of that, and will still continue to be subscribed to the rebranded channel. It's gone through a lot of phases, so this is it. I voiced this back when she came out as trans. Every major adjustment just feels like a phase, or like not like a phase as in it'll be temporary, but phase as in different state. Like this is the next stage. You know what I mean? Not like as in oh, it's just a phase, it'll pass. Not like that. And especially that, I'm very happy that it does seem that Beatrice is really looking better. I think she seems a lot healthier, a lot more happy and content with her life after really trying desperately to make this whole content thing work, which is such a machine, and it's such an unrelenting machine. Like YouTube is oh god, I can't imagine it. And it's like you think I just think to I had never been a fan of Linus Tech Tips, but I remember seeing that video that he posted of him considering retiring. And it's been a while since I first saw that, and obviously he didn't actually fully go away or whatever, but like I was just alluding to earlier, people really just burn out and they just stop, because it's like, well, YouTube just wants the next thing. It's unrelenting. And it's like I think it's great that people are able to move on to maybe better endeavors, like official, real stuff. I think being a published author and being a multi artist, kind of like what Beatrice is going for, I think it's excellent, and that she's actually pursuing it is fantastic. But yeah, it's interesting, and so that's just a PSA. Go find that favorite Digibro video that you liked, and download it if you want to keep it. The one that I actually I actually am considering. I don't want to hold anyone to this or promise this or anything. You know how it is. But I actually made like a list of before this announcement happened. Actually, it was just sort of a passive thing that like me and some people on a call were doing or something. Like I made like a playlist of like my favorite Digibro videos. So like I'll try to make sure those are downloaded. But there was another one that I will mention that wasn't in that initial one, that probably, unless it gets like mass saved, like it just happens to get caught and happen to be saved sort of deal. The Spin the Sakagabura Roulette, the second one, where then Digi and May just find iCity. They just stumble onto it, and they're like, that was the coolest shit. And like that raw, like, oh my god, what is that, captured on video was like so strong to me and so pure. And I don't know, I love the shit out of that, and that's why I keep coming back to anime and stuff for me. And seeing that captured, and that was also my first time seeing a lot of us had seen iCity. It gave that big kind of, not big I guess, but like a boost in exposure, and I think that was awesome. So yeah, I've already saved that video. Thankfully the decompression chambers, which I haven't re-listened to in a while, but I always really liked, and I do want to re-listen at some point. Those are on the Procrastinator channel, so hopefully those don't go down, so I don't have to save them. But yeah, PSA to everybody that's happening, and best of luck, Beatrice, for all your stuff. It's going to continue as is, of course, but not just, this is a very drastic move. I checked out a video from JoJo Talks Too Much after seeing such a thumbnail with Chibi, Jethu, and Nuxtaku on the thumbnail. Something in AniTube needs to change, but it's just kind of a hot button type of thing to just click on. It's just a Q&A. And that's cool. I like the low stakes stuff. I think JoJo's channel in general just feels very low key, very low stakes and stuff, and I do like that. It's very chill and a lot of kind of a welcoming space for anybody listening and stuff, including his kind of small group of dedicated fans. I think it's great that he's very centered on those people. And later in the video, he's talked about like, are you content with the channel right now? And he talks about kind of the history of what's been going on with the past couple months. Like, I don't know, the talk about that it's always very chill, and I like hearing his opinions. The thing he's referencing in this particular thumbnail, the catch of what it is, if I spoil it, I won't try to say obviously the whole point, but from what I can understand, it's talking about what he would want to see changed in the community, and general in the community was like less toxicity and backlash against people, like anti-hype or something like that, or anti-hype, like people are bashing a series and then people kind of go equally hard on the trolls or something. Yeah, I agree, very much less toxicity would be great, but it's a difficult thing. But I was interested in his point about anime YouTube in particular, of how like the seasonal reaction channels, that's I think what the stigma is. And it's not like a very hostile stigma, but it is a very innate stigma where, yeah, I do think people look less on them for being reaction channels. I think that does come from the if you're on YouTube long enough, that 2015, 16, 17 period where there was a lot of people doing that, and people still do it, but there was a lot of channels dunking on that particular content. So it became kind of cool to hate on those people. And the chapter and seasonal reaction channels often kind of get lumped, ostensibly seems like that. And I think that's where that bias comes from. And I totally understand people who's like, with where JoJo's coming from, where it's like, it makes him feel bad that he's kind of being lumped in this way, and there's these different cliques and stuff where it's like we're all in the same canopy, and it'd be cool if we talked to each other more. We got like put onto actual tier lists because like, when he mentions like the tier list sort of thing of like not being kind of being omitted from tier lists and stuff, totally guilty of that myself, making my own tier list and omitting those channels specifically. And I think that's largely because it's such a large subset of the anime YouTube community. I don't feel comfortable with like I would feel like if I put JoJo on and Chibi on, and I could put maybe some Wukong on because I know them, those are the only three I'm actually subscribed to personally. Like, I would feel kind of like I'd feel bad for omitting it. If it's like, if some of them are okay, then all of them should be, and it's the same. It was the same reason why I didn't put as many shonen YouTubers on. People who really only talk about Dragon Ball Z or only JoJo's or only this, that, and the other thing. And they're not talking as much about anime as a whole, but more so that particular subset of shows. And that doesn't make them less than an anime fan or less than an anime YouTuber. And the same way that goes for the reaction channels. I'm just explaining the stigma. I'm not saying I subscribe to it. Like I was saying earlier, I like JoJo's content, and I don't watch it all the time because I don't watch those shows. I'm not watching seasonal anime right now. So I'm not caught up on all the season 2s that he's reacting to. So that's why I don't watch a lot of that kind of content personally. But it's perfectly valid. But I guess that's just my explanation rationale for not including them in tier lists and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think my actions speak louder than words. So it's like no amount of me saying like, oh no, I don't like you or anything, doesn't excuse my action of not talking about you guys as often. And I do try to with, what I'm doing right now, but also your analysis about Free, and the describing the character designs was a cool video. And Chibi recently making a video kind of pushing back against the Attack on Titan hate that it was getting from the animators from season 4. Videos that aren't a reaction video, or review type of reviewing this episode of something. Because at least on Digest, what am I to say about it, really? Like, yes, they reviewed this episode, and I liked it. I don't have much to say about it, so I don't include it. But if it's something different, then it's like, okay, that's something kind of different from their channel and stuff. It's the same reason why, I don't know. I was going to say, like, I don't usually try to cover every entry in a particular. If it's something new, I cover it. But if it's something that's like something that the channel does every week or every day or something, then it's like, yeah, that is what it is. But I will say there are plenty of instances, including one that I'll talk about later, that's like, yeah, it's another installment of this series that doesn't come out very often. But when it does, at least I like to think it's a kind of a cool event and kind of a cool, it's a new, they dropped the video, guys, kind of deal. And not like, yep, it's another one of these sort of deal. I don't know. It's a flimsy explanation for it. I understand. If it's considered, if you see it to be flimsy, I understand. But yeah, I don't know. I think that was really great for JoJo to talk about that particular instance. The rest of the video is fun too. Like I said, it's a fun listen. It didn't feel very long, like a 25. Like it takes forever. It's 25 minutes. It didn't feel like that. JoJo's very welcoming and like speaks honestly, very very honestly, and not trying to be super abrasive or candid yes, but in a way that's very understandable, and he eases you into it in a very good way. I think he's shaped up his talking skills a lot from doing this, of course. But yeah, I like that point, and I do agree. But I do think that was just my 2 cents of kind of where I believe that stigma probably comes from. MercuryFalcon coming out with a video about the Skull Man, looking deeper. So this is an 07 show. I did see this. I did happen to watch this last year, or like like almost a year ago at this point. Me and my roommates happened to see the cover of it and like, whoa, that looks raw, having no information about Ishinomori. And I don't necessarily think you need to understand all the things that MercuryFalcon is talking about in this video to enjoy Skullman. I think ultimately all of us were just kind of, it kind of lost us at like the halfway point or the 3/4 point or something like that. It got a little too crazy and at points. But a lot of the details and references to each of the characters and each of the beats here are really interesting. And I figured it was some having to do with stuff from Ishinomori, but I didn't think it was this much detail. It's very interesting and MercuryFalcon really lays it all out. I just think it feels so I just looked at the description now. I didn't notice this. A remake of an old video I made back in 2017. That's interesting. I don't think he really articulated that in the video, but you don't need to. But that's really cool. It's interesting. But yeah, I will say the thing about this was like it didn't feel super organized. It felt like a lot of different points spread all over the place. It didn't feel like you had a full understanding of Ishinomori as a creator or just like his whole thing or what Skullman specifically is trying to do. It felt like a lot of, oh, this is from this series, and 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 like pulling from different directions, and kind of all over the place. And each point is interesting and it keeps your attention the whole time, but it doesn't feel super cohesive together like, wow, I get it, or something. Or maybe based on a particular, it's like, oh, most fans didn't like Skullman for this reason, and kind of refuting that, or some narrative hook and to kind of lead you along. But otherwise the points are really interesting. That was the only thing that I thought was sort of like that could have been better in this video. Finding a particular structure it flowed fine. It's just to find something a little more compelling in terms of presenting the information in a pointed way, I guess that's really vague. I'm sorry. But I do like this video a good deal, especially if you've seen Skullman. I think this is also really interesting. It's like, oh, it's that, wow, okay, huh, but if you haven't, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, but that's okay. Interesting, pretty cool. And now is what I thought were the best videos of the week. Videos I thought was like, yeah, pretty awesome. And the first one is a very short video. You can check it out right. It's only 45 seconds. It is a restoration. It's not the final restoration, according to the title. It's from channel FemboyFilms, who is also on Twitter. Well, primarily on Twitter, and then just posted this video and just kind of started a channel of sorts. And this is really exciting. So if you've never seen the Daikon 3 Omake, I had never seen it before, actually. It's something worth seeing if you've seen Daikon 3 and 4, but you probably haven't seen this one. I think it's part of I think it's sort of a shorter. It's 45 seconds. But it's the girl from it's the Daikon girl dressing up in all sorts of different references from that period, which was really cool and fun. But it's a side-by-side of the raw 2K scan of the 8mm reel. I'm just reading off the description here. So, so they have the 8mm reel, and they scanned it. And then they're doing a restoration where there's moments on the reel where like there's a marker on it or like a little hair or something like that, and they would basically remove those little bits. I don't know, if manually or like not like manually, obviously manually, but like as in they altered the 8mm itself. I don't think so, but I think it's a restoration in the way that digitally kind of like removing those pieces basically. And you can tell for yourself even from the thumbnail, just giving it a lot more clarity. It makes it a lot better and more interesting, more compelling, I guess. It's you see all the restored detail and things. So I think that's very exciting. New channel of sorts. So I think this is something worth kind of putting in the best category for me. And yeah, I think it's really exciting and cool. It's a video from the Animator Dormitory channel. I learned how to skateboard for anime, and I'm putting this in the best because we've known about this channel for a while, and they've been posting a good deal. But this was the first time that I felt like you really were getting tangible details of the things that she's working on and her personable experience. It wasn't just a vehicle for the dormitory. She wasn't just an avatar for the Animator Dormitory channel. She felt like a genuine animator charting out her own journey. There was a particular video that got a lot more attention previously, and I just missed it because it just seemed like the thing with this channel that was sort of like keeping it in kind of decent for me in a lot of the time and just fine and not really worth talking about was because there was so much redundant information, and that's fine. And I've said this before, how like it's important for them to really get this particular message across, so they have to show it in every video. But it ended up feeling like every video kind of felt the same sort of deal. But this one really felt distinctive and didn't repeat any of the Animator Dormitory information. Obviously, talked about it towards the end. But for the most part, she was talking about her experiences as an animator, and it sounded like a lot of fun and obviously stressful. But like she really was really sounded excited about it, which is awesome. And it's a tough industry. It's like brutal what she's going through in terms of the money and the amount of work and stuff. But like I loved seeing that she worked on AZACAD, and she was able to work on it with with a senior, and she was able to give her a lot of advice, and the amount of she noted the positive reception online, and her seeing that really encouraged her and like wanted to keep going. And like those stories, those parts are really special and really worth this whole channel for me. I think it's really exciting and awesome. Of course, presented very expertly. I think there's a lot more really exciting, cute drawings here. Nothing animated, but that's okay. That's totally okay. You animate plenty as it is, as a profession. But yeah, like her learning to skateboard for Skate the Infinity, and she is working on that, and it's airing right now, sort of deal. And that was really fun and exciting, and relevant. It just felt relevant, right? It's not like the stuff wasn't relevant when she was in the previous videos, but it was just on another level, I thought. And yeah, I just thought it was a really great video from them. If you're like me, where you've been subscribed since the beginning, and it's like, yeah, I think I get the channel by now, this really stood out to me, I thought. Maybe not in the the previous video stood out a lot more because it genuinely showed the figures and really makes it clear to you. But yeah, I think that was excellent too. Anime House 5 from Mighty Sea World 1. Last time I gave this the best of the week, quote unquote. But this one was good too. I really enjoy these because there's so much effort put into the costuming, the amount of acting and stuff, and like really staging things out. Like this level of organizing a story and the script and all the different shots and the different scenes and stuff. Like none of this is really half-assed. They're obviously using the resources they have, so it's a little economical in places. But I like that they really went out of their way to kind of have the shot in the car, the first opening scene where it's kind of a tracking shot like down a hallway. It's like, oh, and especially the OP and the ED for this. I liked their first OP, which was a unbroken tracking shot, or looked unbroken, right? A sort of unbroken tracking shot throughout the anime house. I thought that was excellent. But this one had a lot of energy and kind of felt like an anime OP, which was very inspired and a lot of fun. But the ED is also a lot better. I thought the ED for the first one, for the previous one, Anime House 4, it was fine, but it was just a little tacky in place with the kind of the background, just introducing a bunch of characters, including ones that never showed up in the episode itself, kind of deal. But this one had like an actual ED with Saitama and Mob's characters walking together, and it kind of felt evocative of like the Jujutsu Kaisen ED and stuff and things like that. It felt very relevant. I liked that they introduced Jujutsu Kaisen the way that they introduced Demon Slayer at the previous episode. I believe they introduced it. It seemed, I remember that, yeah. But there was a lot of different plots going on here. And like the one that always stands out to me in the previous one, Anime House 4, was the whole light thing killing L during the whole thing and all this other stuff. But there's that plot thread going on. There's this the villain house and Vegeta turning sides and stuff. And now they have like the cartoon house, like, some like Avatar and Ben 10 and Samurai Jack and all these other ones. They're like, they're from the West and stuff, but they're like anime, quote unquote. And they're like, we want to be in the anime, and so they make an attack on the anime house sort of deal. So that attack actually had a lot of genuine fighting stuff. And the previous one definitely had its fight scenes as well, but it was all outside. This one actually felt a lot raw, like more energy, a lot more variety with the different characters and different, I'm not going to like do the fight choreography or something like that. I'm not going to go that far. But it was fun. It had a lot of good energy to it. And it was compelling in that way and very inspired, of course, not just with the, taking all these characters and stuff, but just like they really love this stuff. It doesn't feel cynical. It doesn't feel cynical. I really enjoy it for that. Yeah, I could gush about it for a while, but I enjoy it a good deal. Beyond the Bot had a very, very good video called "The History of Clamp and the Future of Netflix." And this is from one of their hosts, Crystal. I'm just looking at the description. the advantage of citing from my my history bar and not the playlist is that I can see some bits of the description. Haha. But yeah, this is from one of their hosts, Crystal, and I think this is the first time I've talked about one of her videos. But she knows her shit about Clamp. And I do not. And I thought that was very informative. As someone who is interested in I'm really interested in trying to understand as much about the anime landscape as possible. And Clamp is a huge section of that because they have a lot of anime adaptations. The most I've seen Chobits, Cardcaptor Sakura, and I don't know if I really count Code Geass, but sure, they did work on that technically. I really do want to experience X, Ray Earth, Tsubasa the Chronicle. There was one that they mentioned, Tokyo Babylon, I believe. I barely hear anything about that one. So that was really interesting how often that got brought up in this video. But it really seemed like she knew her shit. She was citing a lot of sources, quotes, even from one from Helen McCarthy, which was cool. And that was really great. And it showed a lot of care and detail, but coming from a genuine fan, I love that anecdote she puts at the beginning of X is like, what did he say to the character or something? And they're on like this cliffhanger and stuff, and she brings that back towards the end. I thought that was very well constructed, very affable personality on camera, and like really pulling you through the whole experience. The future of Netflix thing is really the point of reference to like, oh, may as well talk about Clamp because of this Netflix thing. And it kind of explains her point towards the end. But I really liked it. It was really just kind of a not even just a history per se of Clamp, but just a Clamp basics of like, here's Clamp. If you don't know anything about Clamp, here is their thing. It's these women. This is how they make their manga. This is the kind of the notable, interesting things about their work, things like that. I think it was really well informed and interesting and engaging and very valuable and additive, because I don't know very many people who have talked about Clamp in this detail. So that was a very great video from Beyond the Bot, and the kind of content I know they can definitely make. So I was going to say A for effort, because that's a backhanded compliment. No, I really liked that video. Excellent video. So many great videos this week, but I gotta say, it doesn't hold it. Sorry, it's this is great. This was amazing. Another Trash Taste episode. It's a special. Talking to a real JoJo animator, Ken Arto. It was really interesting. Half French, half Japanese. Went through his history of how he got into the anime industry, working for Telecom as an intern at Telecom, and then at Statelight, and then working as an animator in Studio 4C. And no holds bar on how it's made, how much they get paid, really giving the boys perspective on this sort of stuff, and the mindset of an animator, of what they're going through at this particular moment. Not just like, they get paid like shit, but also there's a lot of stress on them with how long they're sitting in their positions, and criticizing their own work and being like, I could have done that better, and receiving that from other fans. It's like, well, whatever, since they're already very self-critical of their own work. I liked that, how I was able to go into Sakugaboru, look up his name, and find clips from him, some of his work, and he would talk about those sequences on the podcast. Not like they would bring that specific clip. I'm like, what did you think of this? But not like that. But it just so happened that he happened to be, happened to mention them, and that was excellent. But the fact that this is already to broadcast to 500,000 people, and will definitely get to over 1 million views. This and also, these three influencers, right? But like these three guys who each they have their own huge platforms, they now have this information, and they're not gonna spread it as easily. They might still spread some whatever, and they might still be wrong, and they do. I like that they mentioned that towards the beginning or at some point here, where they're like, look, don't trust us, we're just talking out of our asses a lot of the time. And I completely understand that. Especially in a podcast format. It's just, you don't have a Jamie, although I think a Jamie would be helpful if you had Audrey, your intern, doing something kind of like that. Just saying. But yeah, man, it was so helpful and so interesting and enlightening and excellent. And again, big platform that this was on. It's like, it's one thing if like this guy with 1,000 subscribers or something talks to an animator, or a guy with a couple thousand followers on Twitter retweets an animator or something, and that's nice. But like this was huge, and I really appreciated that. And again, it really, like, there's some people that don't. This is a subtweet. There's some people that don't appreciate these guys, and they think they kind of represent the bad side of anime YouTube. No, just no, not even true anymore. By virtue of making something like this and going out of their way to make this sort of thing, I'm very happy that these guys care enough and are willing to give other animators a platform and really ask these questions and react honestly and not try to bury anything. Or actively maliciously spread stuff. They've spread some things in the past that were bad. The flying colors thing, a lot of people are still not over that. It was a couple of years ago at this point. This is completely off topic, but it's just like, some transparency on that would be nice. If they could have a little bit of what happened there, I think that'd be cool. If you happen to be watching this for whatever reason, there are some people that, maybe if you explain it now, they're still not going to give a shit. So maybe it's not even worth it, and I understand. But that those sorts of things still can happen, and that's completely understandable. But like, I think it's really I think that should not take away from what they're doing here and what they're going to continue to do. I think I'm not going to be like, get more now. You must repent. Nothing like that. I'm looking forward to more content from them, whatever they choose to do. I do like their content in different facets in different ways. But it's like, I say this about, I don't know if I've said this about Trash Taste already, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but like it is the case with creators where they go through, and I guess I'll echo what I was saying about Beatrice, Digi, with phases in your career as a YouTuber, or as just as a creative. People are going to grow, and they're going to grow out of making certain kinds of content, and they'll grow into doing some other stuff. And I don't think the past stuff should really invalidate that newer stuff, and the newer stuff shouldn't forgive the old stuff. I think you really need to absorb that all of us are making public art this whole, and it's consistently public, right? It is what it is. I don't know. So it's just like, just continue to make the cool stuff. Acknowledge this, I don't know what I was going to say there. I guess I kind of fumbled that point towards the end. I guess if you know what I mean. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm very uncommittal with that point. Oh, well. What it be? Yeah. But thank you very much for making that and giving Ken Arto a platform. It's such a big platform, I suppose. That was very, very awesome. Loved that. And that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Austin, Beamburst, Boo, Cozy, Hazel, Kuiper, My Anime Pod, Najbeb, Nicholas, Saxon, Unique Nameosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.